Hey everybody, Hillside Prepper 552 here. This is a re-record from yesterday's episode I was going to do. Wasn't really too happy with the dialogue that I put on there. Kept having to take breaks with it because I kept forgetting some things up here. So we're going to rerun it today, see if we can do a little bit better job with it. So as always, if you like the video, be sure to hit the like button, be sure to subscribe, and you can leave a comment down below if you agree with some things I say or if I missed something or whether you disagree. It doesn't really matter. So today we're going to be talking about not really so much self-defense, but just more of like awareness of your surroundings, things you can do at home or while you're out in public that increase your chances of survival if some kind of incident were to happen, like a robbery or an assault, or something like that. But before we get into the topic, as usual, the major thing we've been talking about is the La Palma taking over La Laguna in the Canary Islands. So the Bushcraft Bear video will be, well, his channel will be down in the description because he's been putting a lot of different things up. Yesterday he put up the ash cloud. He was wearing goggles, and then at night he showed the La Laguna lava flow. Today he was in Lo Ciento, or I think that's what it's called down there. I watched the video, but he was talking and showing the significant ash fall. And with that, typically, it's going to bung up your car engines. That's going to, if it gets in your eyes, it's bad. But once I said before, if you breathe it in, it's, equally as worse because once that mixes with the moisture in your lungs, it's like a cement. So the situation over there is not good. Obviously, lava flow does help to alleviate some of the pressure from the eruption, but it's a situation you don't know how much lava is down there, and you don't know the full capacity of the volcano. This could be a situation like it was in 1700 when it erupted. We don't want that to happen because we're going to be talking mega tsunamis, which we've already discussed in a previous video. So, with the economy still spiraling down, today's AppMax prices: silver is up 60 cents, gold's up $17, platinum's up $5.20, and palladium is down $1.07. So palladium's down, that's the most expensive, but everything is up. Silver is a good investment to have. It's, precious metal for thousands of years. Gold, silver, all that has been bartered. It was the reason why Columbus left from Spain to try to get to China and to the Indies at a quicker route so they could get gold faster. That's something that's been teaching my son in homeschool. We just finished Columbus, and they called China Cathay. At least the Spaniards did back in the day. But the whole excursion was to get the spices, the gold, all that. We know that gold is used heavily. It shows not really just a wealth, but it shows a good way to barter. So, investing in silver, much cheaper option than trying to invest in gold at this point, unless you've got a lot more money. But still, $24 an ounce. Spot price for silver is not bad. It was down to 23. So really, if you're thinking about making the investment in silvers, now's the time before everything goes nuts. We talked the other day that there's going to be a 10% increase of food in the stores for within the next 60 days. And, we have our shortages. The containers are still backed up. So you got to do something that's going to be a well worth investment. Cryptocurrency is definitely not that investment. If we were ever to have an EMP attack or the grid goes down or whatever, you can't access it. It's not, it's not like cash or silver or gold. It's not something that's in your hand you can barter with right now, today. So speaking of all that, we're going to look at the gas prices. GasBuddy.com, good place to go. Let's see how I can do this. If I do it by zip code, because I have not signed up for it, it'll tell me the zip code. But I just want to know where the gas is. So let's find gas. Let's go by my state. We'll go by New York. Okay, 280 in Lewistown, 280. So further to the east and up north, it's a little bit cheaper. Mastic, that's actually on Long Island. That's pretty. That's a lot further south. We'll pick a specific county here. 329, 331, 341, 345, and 349. The truck stops. Wow, the truck stop went up. That's interesting. They were staying lower, and they must have finally just caught up. The quick fill is one of the cheapest right now, which was backwards. Okay, so on to today's topic. I think this is an important thing. I have to be very careful what I talk about with self defense. So I'm not going to get really into the ins and outs of like gun buying or what state laws say, what you can do, what you can't do. Basically, the only piece I'm going to offer in that aspect is you should know your state's laws, and you should be in contact with your local police department, and they can help you determine what the best course of action is if you're going to buy firearms, if what you can do for self defense, because what you do outside your house versus what you can do inside your own home are two different things. So those are things you have to be aware of. Not every state has the same rules and regulations. It's different too when you're trying to conceal carry a pistol. So those are important things that you need to be in contact with the local police department or the sheriff's department or even your state troopers and say, look, not really sure about getting a pistol. How do I get a pistol permit? How do I buy, long guns, rifles, and all that? I'm worried about self defense. If I were ever in a situation, and especially, this is something that is considered a lot for the women. I mean, not just the men, but the women. There was situations a few years ago where women were on campuses walking alone, and they were getting, raped and killed by these weird guys. So it's always good to get a good legal advice. If you're ever in a situation where you had to use self defense and you were prosecuted for it, it's always good to consult with an attorney as well. So that's my little bit on it, is to collect information before you make any decisions on home self defense, your self defense out in public, and if you're gonna have any weapons with you or whatever. But this is more about awareness of surroundings. And this is a big thing that's really in the prepping community, but this is a big thing that the general public, the general public, should know. These are some of the skill sets that you should learn, because these are about survival. If we're ever in a crap hits the fan situation, and you have to go out for supplies, you have to know how you're going to handle yourself when you're out there. I'm not talking about how you're going to interact with someone who's threatening you. That's a different story. I'm talking about being aware of your surroundings, taking today, now, your current life, and starting to implement skills that could help with your survival in a apocalyptic situation. Hopefully it never happens, but it's important to be address that. So when I was a teenager, about 7 years, my dad had me in karate, learned some self-defense, learned awareness of surroundings, basically things they teach you in the police academy, of being aware of everything. The powers of observation is probably the biggest and most important thing that a person can use. So we'll start off easy things at home. Are your doors locked at night? Do you lock your doors during the day? Are your windows locked? Is it easy for someone to open a window if it's unlocked? Is it going to make it harder? Will they have to force their way in? We never want to have a situation where someone's going to try to break into your house. We never want to think about that, but we always must be prepared for that. If your windows aren't locked and they can easily open it from the outside, you're giving them the opportunity to get in very quickly. And if you are someone who does have weapons at home, and you know how long it takes you to get a weapon, depending on if it's a shotgun, how you load it, if it's a rifle with a magazine or a pistol, they all load differently, they all fire differently. So you have to consider that. But you're giving people the easy route. If you have an outside basement door, is it locked? Can someone open that from the outside? Those are things to consider. Very important things to consider. Awareness of your surroundings. If you're someone who works at home or you're a stay-at-home parent, you know what time, if you get mail at your house, you know what time the mail person comes by. You know what time FedEx comes by, and you know what time UPS comes by. Generally, we're talking the regular business hours between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Sometimes for FedEx and sometimes for UPS too, they might run a little late if especially in the Christmas season. So, those are things to think about. If you know that you get your mail at 10:30, UPS is in and out at 11, and FedEx is in and out no later than 3 o'clock, that's your routine. You know that. If you are expecting company, obviously that's going to change up your routine a little bit. You're going to have vehicles in the driveway. But if at 9 o'clock at night you're seeing like a box truck similar to like what FedEx has, you don't have any scheduled deliveries, you haven't bought anything online in weeks that would require a FedEx delivery, that's something to think about. That's something to say, hey, that's suspicious. That's where we make sure the doors are locked, phone's ready to call 911. And there's a lot of things you can do to deter this from happening. So now in this scenario I'm presenting, you've already got somebody on the property. Whether you're living in the suburbs or you're out in the more rural areas, you have an unknown number of people on the property with you. They're not inside yet, but they're still on the property, and that's posing a significant risk for crime and for assault and further things that we don't want to think about. But there's things to deter that. Trail cameras or regular security system. The trail cameras is something that I use. It's not on my own personal property. It's on a property that I maintain further away from here. The cards are the regular SD cards. The footage is stored off-site where I am. It's a smart idea because this property is in a place that's busier in the summertime. So there's issues of trespassing. However, if someone were to take the cameras and they didn't have a computer where they could just pop the SD cards out and delete it, they cannot access those cameras because it's locked by a 4-digit PIN. That's something you can set up in the trail cameras. So knowing your equipment is part of your awareness. If someone knows that you have trail cams on your doors and they want to plan something, they could say, I'm just going to take them. Well, guess what? Without a computer, it's worthless to do that. So you have a larceny on the property, but you prevented one thing. You prevented them from getting access into your security system if that's how you use it. The motion activated lights, most of those are battery powered. I think there are some now that they sell that you can tap into your electricity with it. Anytime something gets within 5, 10, 15 feet, the light goes off. And most of these are LED lights now. They're very bright. I have quite a few out here. Go outside at night to take the trash out. For us, the motion sensor light, it's mostly for early spring when the bears come around. I don't want to be walking out in the dark when the bears come around. They're hungry. They just came out of hibernation and they're willing to get food. And if it's a cub with a saw, or it's a saw with her cubs, that could be a big problem. So having those lights not only keeps the critters away, it gives the impression that somebody's home too. If those lights go off, they're not going to know whether you turned on a switch or if it's a motion sensor light. You could be away from home out to dinner and you're still staying out late. Those lights come on. They're not going to know. That's a deterrent too, because now the whole area is illuminated. If you live in a neighborhood, the neighbors can see it. They can say, hey, we don't recognize these people. They're wearing, black shirt, black pants. They're wearing hoods and a mask. They're not supposed to be on that property. So, part of your generalized safety plan for your house is having cameras, having motion detector lights, locking everything. And if you have a good close relationship with your neighbors or other family members, you tell them, hey, we're going out tonight or whatever. If you see something that, like nobody's supposed to be here tonight, let's put it that way. Like, we're going to come back tonight, but nobody else is supposed to be here. We have no planned deliveries. The mail's already come and gone. And that's basically about it for when you're at home, for basic awareness of surroundings. Obviously, we all know what the sound of breaking glass sounds like. We all know what the sound of a door getting kicked in sounds like. So those are the types of things we listen for. In a rural area, you might not always hear those delivery trucks, but For me, it's like, okay, I know when those trucks come. I know how long they stay, how long it takes the guys to unload things, depending on what I ordered. And like I said, they're in and out. Uh, garbage days, you know what the garbage trucks sound like. You can hear them dumping the garbage into the hauler, and they're out. So, just some things to basically think about. When you go out in public, this is important too. I mean, awareness of your surroundings at home. You're more likely to be more aware of what's going on around you at home than you are out in public. However, there is the risk of complacency. Nobody should ever get complacent with anything. You should always be keeping a good eye and having good observation powers on what's going on around you, especially in your own home. But out in public, it becomes a different story. We go out, we get distracted by the radio, we get distracted by phone calls and texting, social media. We get distracted if we go to the mall and we see friends and we say, "Hey, let's go get a pretzel together," or something like that. If you're someone who works late at night or comes in early in the morning, we're talking during the day or the sunset, sunrise, and darkness hours. You know the traffic patterns if you're going in early. You know the traffic patterns if you're leaving at night. Um, those patterns obviously can change depending on the season. So if it's summertime and there's a lot of traffic out, that's probably not a big deal. There's probably something going on, concerts, festivals. If you live in an area where there's lakes, there's people coming and going all the time from the lake, going to lake properties, going to dinner, bar hopping, whatever. But if you get in a situation where you feel like you're being followed by somebody, and I mean seriously followed, it's not like a coworker that you know, but someone picks up on your daily routine. They know that you park at the back end of the parking lot of your employment. They know what time you get there, what time you leave. If someone who wants to do damage is going to spend weeks observing you. This isn't going to be something that's quick. Those quick hitter robbers are going to hit you late at night, um, and they're going to come and go. If someone wants to do serious harm to you, they're going to spend time studying your habits. They're going to know what your favorite restaurants are. They're going to know what you drive. They're going to know the license plate of what you drive. They're going to even might know your route home. If you're going home and you're not paying attention to what's in your mirrors, that's a very dangerous situation. Now you're leading people who want to do harm back to your own house. That's not very safe. So when you're out and you're driving, the main thing I learned from truck drivers is they check their mirrors every 10 seconds. Left, rear view, right. Always checking, you always have your life in the rear view mirror because you want to know what's behind you. If you're out late at night coming home from work or you're leaving for work and you have a vehicle that's following you, taking every turn that you're taking, and it's the same vehicle, they don't turn off, they're relatively close to you, and it's not somebody that you would know to follow you, like maybe a coworker catches you on the route and you guys go in. But if it's not someone you don't want to be going to the places that you're going to lead them directly to you. In this type of situation, let's say you're coming home from work late at night and you've got a vehicle following you, get off the highway, you're heading towards the town you live in, and you're getting into rural parts. This is where situations become more intense and more dangerous. This is where somebody who's going to do harm to you might try to run you off the road or try to get you stopped in some way, shape, or form. So if you get off the highway, you go right, and that's where you're going home. You might want to go left if you know that's where the police department is. You get on the phone with 911, and the great thing about these newer cars, I know we talk a lot of crap about the new vehicles and the electronics, but the great thing is you can hook up your cell phone right to the Bluetooth. It comes right out of your speaker. It's awesome. So you can dial 911 on most of the radios have it. You can dial 911 without taking your eyes off the road. You can explain, who you are, what you're driving. If you know your license plate number, that's helpful. Which direction you're heading, saying that you're heading towards a local police station, the state police barracks. You've had someone following you. Obviously, if it's dark out at night, you might not see the color of the car, what kind of car it is. But all you know is you have these headlights, basically right on you, and you don't know who it is or what their intentions are. But if it's a daytime situation where you have someone who's following you home from work and it's daytime hours and you recognize this vehicle continually follows you, you can pull the license plate from the rearview mirror. It's not easy to do it, but you can do it. You can give the vehicle description, you can give the color of the vehicle, how many occupants, if you see one or two in the passenger and driver's seat, or if you can see more in the back seat, what they look like, if they're male, female, anything that you can really think of. This is really going to help dispatchers give the information to the police and try to stop the situation as quickly as they can. This goes for at home too. If you have to dial 911, you give out as much information as you can, description of someone, what how tall they are. If they're we don't you can't give a full weight, but were they without really using offensive terms, were they someone who was bigger or someone who was smaller? Their type of clothing. If it's 95 degrees out, summertime, and someone's knocking on your door wearing a trench coat and a mask. Before COVID, the whole mask thing would be a set off, like, this isn't right, but the mask thing has caused complacency. But you have someone that comes in with a trench coat and it's 95 degrees out and probably concealing some type of weapon, like a sawed off shotgun. That's an instant red flag where you would call immediately. If you can get someone off the property and they're fleeing, you tell them which way they go, what they said to you, if anything. And this is where like door alarms and security alarms would come into play, but that can all go back into how you lay your house out as far as video cameras, lights, those different types of things. I've come to found that people who will not read signs, they will not read no trespassing signs, whether it's an unintentional trespass, like they're going to look at a house that's for sale on private property, or they're coming to cause you harm. In the property I maintain are 13 posted signs. Yeah, 13 of them all around the property, 4 cameras, 3 of which have been identified by trespassers. One has not been found. It's a well placed camera. I wish I could have done the others, but those cameras didn't deter trespassing, but they possibly deterred burglary and or other crimes to the property. So having signs up, no trespassing, it doesn't allow for wiggle room for someone to say, well, I thought I could go on the property. No, it says right there, no trespassing. I don't know you. You're not supposed to be on the property. There's one thing. Video camera signs, you're on surveillance. That's a pretty clear and cut thing. Any action you take's gonna be on video camera. But that's all for the home things. But to kind of get back towards the out and about in public, if you're out shopping and you want to be looking behind you quite frequently, you don't want to just be walking blindly, going through the aisles, picking this, picking that, and you don't know what's going on behind you. You don't always want to be someone who is always looking over your shoulder, but if you start to sense something's off, that fight or flight response starts to kick in, you're going to notice something. You're going to notice someone's behind you. Maybe it's some guy that's been following you in. Maybe this is the guy who's been, following you and observing you for weeks, and now he's going to make his move in a grocery store full of people. Yeah, it's happened. Believe it or not, it has happened. But this is where you are observant. You don't, in these types of situations, pre-COVID, I would say don't travel by yourself to a store, whether you're male or female, how confident you are in your skills or whatever. The more people you have with you, the less likely something's going to happen. The more likely something's going to happen is when you're by yourself and your guard's let down because you become complacent. Really, those are the important pieces to think about. And for your own safety too, how are you going to communicate with someone like 911 if there's an emergency? Let's say you have a power outage that's caused by someone who wants to break in your house. They cut the lines. That's happened too. They cut the phone line, they cut the electric. Well, if they cut the phone line, you're not going to have internet or phone. Let's say you have you have your cell phone. Let's say some odd reason that isn't working. Then for someone like me, who's the amateur radio operator, you'll have an amateur radio. Most preferably a portable one that's either relying on batteries or like those AA batteries or a lithium ion battery. Those are good ways to get out. Portable CB radio as well. Truckers usually observe channel 19. Channel 9, it says it's still for emergencies, but I don't know if it's really watched by 911 centers or by the police for any type of emergencies. But, ham radio, you get out on any station that you can operate on, ask for help. Someone's going to be on the other end, answer that. There's millions of ham radio operators in the country. You could hit a repeater. If you're in New York City, you can hit a repeater and it could go all the way to Seattle. Um, that's how great the ham radios work and how the repeaters work based on atmospheric conditions. So those are all things to consider with the home defense. More like your awareness of your surroundings. I mean, obviously, like I said, I don't want to be telling people go out buy guns and this is what you do, because it wouldn't be appropriate for me in a certain position I hold to give out that advice. That's something that you should be consulting your local police department, state agencies, checking the laws, and possibly consulting with attorneys too on what you can do versus what you can't do with self defense, what you're allowed to own for weapons versus what you're not allowed to own. Certain things like switchblade knives, mostly illegal in pretty much every state. I can't think of a state that would be legal in. Pepper spray, there's a certain percentage that civilians are allowed to carry. Obviously, can't be a greater percentage than what law enforcement carries. Something like that. Other things like billy clubs, brass knuckles, nunchucks, all those. Nunchucks and the kunai knives and the sais are really only used for presentation in karate, but for personal use, those are illegal. So these tips should be helpful in your regular everyday life, but as a prepper channel, this is something that's important for everybody to know. This is something that in a apocalyptic scenario, which we never hope happens, we're always prepared for it. If you tell people that you have a home full of food, they're going to come for that food. People who are hungry are willing to do just about anything to feed themselves and their family. They'll go to any lengths. That means breaking into somebody's house and, getting rid of those people to get to that food. So that's something you want to shut up about, what you have, what you don't have. You never tell anybody the contents of your house. Obviously, if you're talking about, oh, yeah, I got this new phone, this is pretty sweet, that's one conversation piece that's really irrelevant for apocalyptic scenarios. But if you're going up and saying, yeah, I got these great shelving units, I got a closet upstairs, I got a closet in the basement, I got a closet in the downstairs, the just you're giving away too much information. So basically, for your survival and to become more aware, you don't tell people too much, even people close to you. You are have to be aware of your surroundings constantly, and it does get tiring, but you have to learn how to keep your senses sharp. You don't want to get complacent. Complacency can get someone seriously injured or killed. Um, if you're out going to work and someone's following you in, change up your parking spots. That's what I used to always do at a certain job that I had a couple of years ago. I would park close to the building. Some days I'd park off to the side, and other days I'd park towards the road. Always switching up the entrance I'd go to depending on the day. If I'm working in the afternoon, early afternoon, like going in at like 1:30, all the doors are open. So I can go in this side of the building. I can go into this building, which is connected to that building, not having the same route of entry, so they can't pin you down on a routine. And they can pin you down on a routine if you say, okay, Monday I park here, Tuesday I park there, Wednesday I park there, Monday I go on this side, Tuesday I go on this. No, you change it. You're always constantly changing it. Vehicles are always locked. You don't leave things out that someone can get, like a checkbook, extra keys. It's one thing if you're out getting gas and you just run in real quick to pay for gas. But even in that instance, something can happen. Your vehicle can get stolen. So, the key idea here behind this whole ramble for the day is awareness of your surroundings. And this is more of what I wanted to discuss yesterday, but ended up becoming more information about self defense that I wasn't appropriate putting out there because of I don't want to be giving bad advice. So, um, La Palma, something we're definitely still keeping an eye on. This bushcraft bear, I gotta say, really nice information he's putting out. Firsthand experience. This isn't something the media can edit out. I mean, they're editing the magnitude of the earthquakes. Keep an eye on the silver prices. It's always important when you have some extra money. Always want to invest in silver. Always. And we're always keeping an eye on the gas prices because not only is food going to go up, but the energy prices are scheduled to go up 20%. I don't know how quickly it's going to go to that 20%, but the key thing here is it's going to go higher than that 20%. It doesn't matter what the media tells you. You got to plan for what could be. We're not looking at a scenario of what's going on now. What could happen? That's why we prepare for these types of different things. So, hopefully these tips will help you out as far as the self-defense, some self-defense and how self-awareness goes, investing in outdoor lights, investing in motion detectors, not just the lights, but like on the windows, locking your doors, all the good stuff, getting cameras. So until next time, this has been Hillside Pepper 552. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to give a like and subscribe, and we'll see you all soon.